What is going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Mike Roach podcast. And yes, just because it's the weekend, that doesn't mean that I'm just going to leave you guys stranded here. I had to bring on one of the big dogs today, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, my main man here, NBA analyst for TSN and the Toronto Raptors, my man Leo Rautins. Leo, what is going on, brother? How is everything, man?
I'm good. I'm better now. Anytime I get a chance to talk to you, it's all good.
Well, listen, I'm glad you're here, taking some time for some of these NBA fans that are watching this right now, especially from the Toronto Raptors. But the first place I want to start is this, Leo. Now, there's been a ton of people that we saw who talk Raptors and just NBA media coverage in general, right? They made it seem like the Raptors were going to be absolutely nothing this season. And we're 19 games in now. Raptors are on a 9-game win streak. They're 14-5, okay, to start the season. Is this what you expected from the Toronto Raptors out of the gate?
Well, okay. I thought this team is going to be a playoff team. I thought it'd be reasonable based on what's happening in the conference, their roster, everything, to be a top 6 team. Okay, so going in, that was my expectation. Did I think it would play out like this early? No, but you gotta put a perspective on what's happening. You can say, if you look at a schedule, there's a lot of games, players are missing on other teams. Now, you don't have to apologize for that, but you still have to win those games, and they have. So things will balance out. I mean, you're not going undefeated. You're not going to have a winning streak all season long. So things will balance out. But I think for sure that this team was a playoff team. And, for all the, Michael, all the experts that talk, you have to wonder sometimes what they think or what they see. If you look at the bad teams last year, right? And the Raptors were one of the bad teams. And a lot of that is intentional, right? You're trying to restructure, regroup. To me, it was pretty clear that they were the best of the bad teams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at, wait a minute, you got this guy. I don't know if anybody noticed this guy, Brandon Ingram, right? Former All-Star, guy that had proven he's a big time scorer in this league. He's sitting here waiting to play, and he's healthy, right? Scotty Barnes a year older. Immanuel Quickley injuries last year. Jakob Poeltl injuries last year. RJ Barrett is been rolling. You start to you go, what are you people looking at, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking at when you just come out and blanket say things like, they're no good, this and that. So to me, sometimes you really got to be careful, when you listen to experts.
Yeah, it's true.
A lot of times they stay in their own little cocoons and just throw anything out, and they really don't care. And then you watch, if the Raptors keep playing, they're going to have a whole different way of talking about them, and they're going to, so it's like, throw it up against the wall, whatever sticks, go with it.
It's funny because I remember games last year where the Raptors let's just call it what it is. They were blatantly trying to lose games and still ended up winning.
Yeah.
And still ended up winning. I remember that
Yeah.
game in Orlando when they had Scotty Barnes on the bench in a close game, trying to lose the game and still came up with wins. So I'm looking at when teams are literally trying to lose and still won over 30 games with all of these guys still injured, and then you add health back into that with the addition of Brandon Ingram. I don't understand how you thought this team would be terrible again. So I completely understand where you're coming from when you say what you just said there. And now we know that, okay, the Raptors quarterfinal game in the Emirates Cup tournament is going to be going up against the New York Knicks. What do you think about that matchup?
I think it should be a fun matchup. Obviously, you know how New York plays. They're physical. They get after you. I think the Raptors match up very well. I think there's a little incentive, for Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett in that game,
Mm-hmm.
right? A little extra above and beyond the NBA Cup. So I'm looking forward to it. I think a lot, depends how the Raptors handle the bigs. My one concern right now with the Raptors, people have underestimated Jakob Poeltl for a long time, and all the people talked about, you got to trade this guy. I go, what are you thinking? To me, he's a top 5-6 center in the league, and there are not a lot of centers. So he's a guy that knows how to play. But if there's a problem, if he goes down, and we saw this at the beginning of the season when he wasn't ready to play, it was a problem. right? And so my big concern is if something happens to him, whether it be injuries, fouls, things like that, it's a problem for this team. And New York's got some big bodies they can throw out, and so that's probably my one concern in that game. But overall, I think it's going to be a fun matchup. And the Raptors get home court, which is perfect.
It's funny. This is how, ladies and gentlemen watching, this is how you know Leo and I are on the same page. Jakob Poeltl, how good has he been? All things that don't show up on the stat sheet. Backup center needs. Okay.
There you go.
Let's
See,
get.
You and I've been hanging out too long.
So I want to stay on Jakob Poeltl for a second, right? Because it's like you mentioned, he's one of those guys that I say he's one of those guys who has his hard hat. He gets his lunch bag. He clocks in, does his job the way it's supposed to be done. Doesn't have to be fancy about it, clocks out and goes about his business. Now, for those who aren't necessarily basketball savants, right? You may not see all the high flying dunks and all the yelling and pumping of the chest and screaming and all that kind of stuff. Can you be specific on some of the things that he does that may not show up on a stat sheet?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, people aren't seeing him swing off the rim and do all that stuff and talk trash, and they just dismiss a guy like that. But he's not the quickest guy. He doesn't put his head over the rim, but he will get to where you want to get to before you. He will anticipate plays before they happen. He creates space for his teammates because he understands the game extremely well. He plays angles. So if you're quicker than me, but I understand angles and I'm anticipating things, I can beat you to that spot. And that's what he does. And he doesn't have to be above the rim to block shots, but he can alter and change shots, right? And he's got great hands around the rim too. Anything that comes his way, he gets his hands on it, he'll do something good. He's just tremendous hands. But you look at the way he sets screens, the way he reads screens, the way he slips screens, the way he does all that. There's so much room for everybody. And he knows what the defense is doing. There's nothing the defense is doing that he doesn't understand, right? So he's going to make adjustments as he's coming to set screens, or he's going to make adjustments. I'm coming to screen. No, I'm rolling. I'm like, he's just always reading plays. And his teammates now, I think, really understand how to play with him. They're really learning what he brings to the table. And the difference between the space when he wasn't available early and the space once he started playing at a high level is dramatic, So it's those little things that, and he doesn't have to score a lot of points. He doesn't even have to grab a boatload of rebounds, but he's always there. He's always there. And, how many times do you have a big on another team that really hurts you? Well, he's a big body that can be an obstacle in those situations. And, and again, he's a very good help defender. And again, anticipating when you need help, he's already there, right? He's making your guy give up the ball because he's there. So again, it doesn't have to be a spectacular block shot to be effective. Just understanding how to play makes him takes him to another level in this game.
Okay, now I want to double back for a second because we mentioned the matchup between the Knicks and the Toronto Raptors in the quarterfinal, but I've done a lot of talking about Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes, so I want to focus more on these two guys, and Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, who came over from the New York Knicks in that trade. The first guy I want to talk about is RJ Barrett, just because he's been out of the lineup for a few games now, and his impact for the team, we can see that now, right? Now that he's been out of the lineup for a few games. Talk to me about what you have seen from RJ Barrett and what you like about his game this season and the difference that you see in the team when he's in and out of the lineup.
Well, I think first the obvious, he can score. Okay. And when you have a good team, right? Obviously Brandon Ingram is the guy. Okay. Scotty's game has evolved. It's changing, and Ingram's presence and a healthy roster is changing what he can do out there. You no longer have to settle for anything. He's got room, right? We're seeing that impact. Quickly can score. You got to score, but you need a guy that can get buckets. Another guy, and RJ is that guy, right? He doesn't wait for something to happen. he like sometimes when you have a scorer and other guys doing it, the guy will be in a good example would that be like OG, for example. Remember when he was in Toronto, you could see him have a big scoring game, and other times, like, where is he? Well, he's waiting. He's waiting. RJ doesn't wait. RJ's gonna seek out his offense. He's gonna find it, but he doesn't do it in a bad way. You look at his ball cuts. He reads. He knows. Okay, I see that man coming to help. I'm going. Boom, and his timing is great. And his teammates are really understanding that, and they find him on those cuts. And he finishes. Like his percentages are great finishing off cuts. So he's a guy that I just think that people have not given him credit for his basketball IQ. He understands the game. They criticize, okay, defense, can he play better? Yeah, okay, yeah. But so can a lot of guys, right? But not everybody can drop 20 points when you need it. And I think he works at it. I think he's getting better. Defense is just focus for him. If he locks in, he can guard. But the offense and the things he's given you, the intangibles at that end of the floor are huge. And again, we talk about what Ingram creates for others, like in terms of space, because he's a magnet. Well, what does RJ do for Ingram and Scotty and Immanuel? Right? You can't leave RJ. Like he's going to score. So he creates space, right?
Yeah.
So it works both ways. So now what you have a lot of guys have good individual matchups because of the presence of an RJ or, like I said, an Ingram, a Scotty Quickley. So I think people forget that RJ has come from. Had a huge impact playing for Canada as a junior and as a senior, had a huge impact at Duke, had an impact at New York. They got to the playoffs with him in New York, right? So he's been in elite programs, pressure programs, and thrived. So why would people not expect him to do that here? And his numbers since he's been in Toronto have been great. So I'm just enjoying the evolution and enjoying seeing a Toronto kid have success at home.
I agree with you. I'm really enjoying seeing that as well. Immanuel Quickley. Now, I know when we think about him being extremely quick, no pun intended there. We think about his shooting, right? But I'm looking at his assist numbers. I'm looking at his rebounding numbers as well. What are your thoughts on Immanuel Quickley so far this season?
Well, the first thing is everybody knows he's a scoring point guard. Okay, that's his thing. He's a scoring point guard. And I mentioned this on the air the other night. You know what a great thing that's happened is Jamal Shed, right? What has happened now for Darko? He's got the luxury of having a true point guard in Shed that defends, moves the basketball, takes care of the basketball, and defends at a high level, and Quickley, who can score and create opportunities with his offense, right? And like I said, he's scrappy. He can get rebounds. He can get a hand on a ball. He can do all kinds of things, and they complement each other. So you could take one out, put the other in. You can put them both on the floor at the same time because Quickley now can run off screens, come out in transition, get buckets because Shed's not looking to do that. But he can score, so he keeps people honest. So I think the presence of both of those guys is helping each other. And I think Quickley's really benefited from that because a lot of pressure of being that point guard has been taken off with Shed's presence. And all he's got to do is understand that the Raptors want him to score. That's what he does. Yeah. Okay? That's what he does. You just have to be aware of the game. Hey, Brandon Ingram's rolling. I'm going to give him the rock, right? Hey, Scotty's got a mismatch. I'm dropping it down, right? RJ's cutting. Boom, I'm going to find him. You're just playing the game. So you don't have to be that traditional point guard, 8 assists, 2 turnovers. You don't have to do that. You just got to feel the game. And I think that comes with maturity. It comes with confidence. And I think that in this environment that he's in, and again, with Shed taking pressure off, I think we're seeing Quickley start to really find himself with this team.
Last question here for you, Leo. With everything that's been said, right? I think we got to give some props to Darko Rajaković here. I think he's done a fantastic job putting these guys in places to be successful. And one thing that I've realized, not just this season, but since he's gotten here, I've noticed a very good vibe with the guys. Right? Yeah. Everybody seems happy. Everybody seems like they're buying in. what have you noticed about Darko Rajaković since he's become the head coach, and how has he been able to put guys in place to be successful this year?
Well, you think about what's one of the first things you started hearing from him when he got here. Guys are saying, man, I talked more to Darko than I talked to my other coaches for years in one day.
Yeah, that's true.
He communicates, right? Mm-hmm. He communicates. He wants to know about you. He wants to talk to you. He wants to understand you. He wants to have a relationship with you. And he's got great energy. And some people might say, like, you watch him in a locker room, Ingram's talked about it. You know, you don't know what he's going to do. He's going to come in, he's going to be screaming, he's going to punch you. Everybody's going, well, that's not cool. That's not the way a coach should behave. Well, you know what? A coach is supposed to coach. And a coach is supposed to get the most out of you. And that's his style. And he's getting the most out of guys. They're enjoying it. They're having fun. And I love that energy. I think it's great. And you know, think about when they were losing, you didn't see guys saying, "Oh man, this is garbage. I don't feel like playing." You never saw that. You never saw a lack of effort. You look at a lot of teams around the league that are losing; they're ugly to watch. You don't even want to. You know that. You know this is just a garbage situation, and they're trying to find coaches that can coach. Well, you don't see that here. Not with Darko. And if you listen to players that have been around him at OKC, Memphis, other places, the feedback you get is really good. Like, he's impacted a lot of players.
Kendrick Perkins was just talking about him the other day.
Yeah. And there's a lot of guys. You know, Bain and Orlando had great things to say about him when he was at Memphis. You know, my son Andy played for him in Tulsa when he was released by OKC. He loved Darko. He said Darko would talk every day, and you just knew that Darko cared about you. You felt it, right? And you know what else? He's not afraid to call you out. He's gonna tell you what you're not doing wrong, what you're not doing right. And that's one of the things Perkins was saying. He called out Westbrook. He's this coach behind the bench, right? Not your top guy, behind the bench, going to Westbrook saying, you can't play like that. How many coaches that are at the top are afraid to say that to the top guys? So, and you know what? I've always said this, that players, obviously, it's how you communicate, but players want to be coached. And if you get into somebody, if they respect you, they'll take it. If they don't respect you, they're going to dismiss you, and it's going to be a problem. But if they respect you, they're going to take it because you know you're trying to make them better. And if you're calling them out, you're not trying to embarrass them, but you're calling them out because they need to be called out. And Darko's that guy. So, you know, I even told him last year, I said, you know, Darko, I said, what you're doing here is really good because you're in a tough spot, okay? You got to keep these guys going. You got to make them better. You got to give them their minutes, and you're not supposed to win. I mean, how hard? That's brutal.
That's a good point.
And he's done. I told him, I said, you're doing a hell of a job. You know, actually too good. You're winning too many games. But you know, if you look at the whole attitude of the team and everything, I just thought it was an amazing job. And you know, people don't notice that stuff. People talk about the guys at the top and the guys that, you know, are battling for a championship. But you got to look at the coaching job, you know, in the entire picture and realize, you know, he's been amazing, I think. And you know, and now he's got. I'm happy for him that now he's got this opportunity to win. And all the and you know, it's and the way they play, and it's very unselfish. They get after you defensively, right? You know, what's the knock on Euro game? No defense. Well, Darko's guys, they get after you, right? They get after you. They put pressure on you. And offensively, it's equal opportunity. Yeah, Ingram's your guy, but how many guys are averaging close to 20? Because you're moving. You don't hold the ball. You create for each other. That's very Euro, and that's what this league needs more of. So I'm really happy with what he's done. It's pretty impressive to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Leo Rautins, thank you very much for joining the show. And listen, you're kind of one of my all-stars for the Mike Roach podcast. I'm not sure between you, Savannah Hamilton. I think you guys have probably been on this show the most over the years. Thank you very much, Leo. I appreciate it.
I'm humbled to be on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. See you soon.
All right.
Take care.